overview as well as our upcoming events, and then hand it over to Trevor Demers for our presentation today. So for everyone who doesn't know, my name is Matthew Wu. I am the current president of this ITE Greater Vancouver section. Some of our upcoming events include on May 7th, a Broadway Subway Project technical tour. This is from 3 to 4:30 p.m. at the Broadway City Hall station. The tickets were released yesterday, and unfortunately, all 20 have been spoken for. However, there is a wait list if anyone is still interested. If you have signed up and are not able to attend, please send an email to our section letting us know so we can let others have an opportunity. On June 11th, we have a technical tour hosted by the City of North Vancouver and ISL Engineering on the Esplanade Complete Street. That will be 3 to 5:30 p.m., meeting at the Lonsdale Quay Sea Bus Terminal. Signups will come out later this month, so stay tuned. I also want to give a heads up. There is the ITE Canada Annual Conference happening in Halifax from June 1st to 4th. Please see the ITE Canada website for sign-up information and details. So I want to introduce everyone to Trevor Demers. Hopefully most of you have heard of and know him, but he is a senior traffic operations engineer at the BC Ministry of Transportation and Transit. He serves as our vice president of our Greater Vancouver section and was recently named the 2024 Young Professional of the Year. We are delighted to have Trevor present on some of the ministry's work on roundabouts today. So with that, I will turn the floor over to Trevor.
Great, thank you, Matthew. And I will just get the screen sharing here. Looks good. Thanks for that kind introduction. I appreciate that. Oh, I don't need that. So today, I'm super excited to talk about the work we did at Highway 99 and 8th Avenue. The existing roundabout there has been there for quite some time, and we had an opportunity internally to make some great improvements. So we're going to walk through that. I did want to start quickly with an acknowledgement. I acknowledge with respect that I work in and am presenting today from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Coquitlam First Nation and the lands of the Coast Salish peoples. And I'd just like to take a moment to please ask you to consider reflecting on the lands from which you're joining today. I do also want to come with a bit of a disclaimer. The presentation today represents my own personal experience, assumptions, and opinions. Its contents, including any discussion we may have or any answers to questions, do not necessarily reflect the positions or viewpoints of the British Columbia Ministry of Transportation and Transit or the Government of British Columbia. Speaking of the province of British Columbia and the lands that we're assembled on and where we work in, let's talk a little bit about the location today. So here's a map of the Lower Mainland, which most will be familiar with. And what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in to just the South Surrey White Rock area and talk about the context of where this roundabout sits. I'm going to put laser pointer. So the roundabout is this one right here. And as you can see, it's in a pretty busy spot. We have the major US border crossing at Peace Arch. We have the truck crossing as well. And a lot of people are coming through this area. Okay, here's how the roundabout looked before the work began. As you can see, it's a pretty old style conventional roundabout. Some of the details there. It was originally constructed in 2003, 2004. It featured dual circulatory lanes, so that just means that there's 2 lanes all the way around the roundabout. Whether they're necessary or not, they were there. And there's these direct merges at the 2 exits, the north exit and the west exit. We also have crosswalks within those merges, or we did. Many of the major movements in this roundabout conflict due to the the way that instead of going straight through a roundabout like you might have on a normal conventional highway, people are trying to access and egress from the freeway. So some of those paths cross. We'll talk about that a little more in a minute. And I do want to also bring some attention to the fact that there are extremely heavy truck volumes on 8th Avenue as commercial vehicles go to and from Highway 99 to the US border crossings, way more than you might expect. Okay. So as I mentioned, there are these conflict merge zones with the crosswalks. We have some pretty dramatic exit conflicts now shown here in red and in pink. And some other things that I think that this specific satellite image, courtesy of Google Earth, brings to the forefront here is these zones where you can see from the gravel debris, there are sections of the roundabout that are not really getting used or in its original configuration. The worn paths really give us a sense of where drivers are trying to get to here. I also want to bring some emphasis in this pretty perfect satellite image that trucks like the one on that white line there were definitely finding what one might call the fastest path. They weren't really following the lines through this roundabout. They were making it work, especially those large vehicles trying to get through this roundabout. They were coming across the lane line in the circulatory roadway. And then as well, that blue line there, you can see drivers were cutting across that inside lane to take an exit, as that white car may be about to do as well. And then the collision history. So before the works that we're going to talk a little more about today, we were seeing one collision, minor collision, as we often see at roundabouts, but one collision every 3 weeks on average. Low severity, but still quite a number. I'm going to switch gears here, and I do want to talk a little bit about the structure of the ministry, specifically our operations teams, and how something like this might come to the forefront of our minds. Operations within the ministry and monitoring the roadway and making sure that issues like this get found is split between two different groups. We have the district operations groups. They are also responsible for things like overseeing the road maintenance contractor, and certainly tracking issues, corresponding with the public, things like that. And then under engineering services, you have my group, which is traffic operations. When the districts need engineering support, they come to us, and as an internal client, we can provide them service. The district operations team and the traffic operations teams meet all across the province at least every month to make sure that we're keeping track of what's going on the roads, and sort of as emerging issues come up, we address them. What we also do, though, is we track longer standing areas where there may be opportunity for improvement. And this roundabout was certainly a location that qualifies there. We knew of some of the concerns that I highlighted at the start of the presentation, and we were just looking for an opportunity to do something about it. And it was mid last year, 2024, where the lightning struck and we finally had our big chance. So this roundabout was identified as part of our routine 2024 paving program. We knew that the paving firm, which I believe was BA Blacktop, was going to come through and completely redo the entire roundabout and its approaches. And whenever you have that sort of situation where the entire asphalt is going to be replaced, I think a lot of traffic engineers anyway see that as a blank slate, which can be exciting. So engineering services found out that this repaving project was coming in one of these routine meetings, and the clock started. We realized we had just under 2 weeks to devise, propose, and what this doesn't say, but also get some buy-in for an alternate layout that could address the issues that we saw. And that's a lot to try to run around and get everybody in a room on such short notice and convince people that something different may be the right way forward is no small feat. Oh, and that slide also said there that we were limited to just the things that would have been done anyway. So we can only reinstate pavement markings. We couldn't do any civil works, no concrete or anything like that. And then fortunately, we were able to change some signs. I want to express some extreme gratitude to the core team. This is, it says the team, it's the core team. Many others help as well and were crucial to this effort. But Mariah Hibbert was the project coordinator. She's our payment marking coordinator and works on making sure that our payment marking contracts are all fulfilled every year. The district lead from their operations team was Christy Stevenson, and the project sponsor was Grant Smith. The design review for the roundabout layout changes was Michelle Lee, and I was the transportation designer. I do also want to give a shout out to Jerry Froese and Jennifer Hardy. We have a mandatory roundabout headquarters review, and it was those two individuals that facilitated that review in a very rapid manner. So that's the team who was sort of responsible for getting this across the finish line on such a short timeline. Of course, when you are doing something like this, you have options always. And we, of course, could have just reinstated the pre-existing layout. We could have just dropped that second circulatory lane and gone to a single lane roundabout. But more and more, we're seeing situations, especially in North America, where they're newer, where we're seeing roundabouts with these turbo elements. So that's the clickbait that got you all to come today, I guess, putting turbo in the name. Oh, and I will mention about the name of the webinar. I don't think we could resist the wordplay, but I would suggest that the Ministry of Transportation and Transit is addressing safety in more than a roundabout way. We're thinking about safety head on with our adoption of Vision Zero. And I think this is a perfect example of how thinking about how even the most normal standard repaving project can actually come with safety enhancements it's a great example of how the ministry is thinking about safety. So there you go. But a good pun, it's impossible to resist. Okay, so what are turbo roundabout elements? So many of you will be familiar with the amazing website, turboroundabout.com. It's a great resource, has some wonderful information, some wonderful pictures, some wonderful videos. I encourage you to check it out. So I pulled some of the key points relevant to this work off of it. So we have a nested spiral at one of our entries. Don't worry, I will point what that out. I'll point out what that is in a moment, in case you're not familiar with that. In a turbo roundabout, you'll never really see yourself yielding to more than 2 lanes. One of the circulatory lanes through the roundabout should have an optional exit. So that's a situation where from one lane you can stay in the roundabout or take an exit. It'll typically feature smooth exit spirals, and at least 2 of the exits should have 2 exit lanes. So we'll see how we did on the scorecard here. So here is the design. And this actually is the mock-up that we ran around the office with, showing to people and saying, this is the opportunity. This is what we could do in just a week or two to eliminate some of the concerns that we have at this roundabout. So it was very successful. And believe it or not, this essentially did morph into the design drawing. This is largely what the pavement line marking contractor used to do the layout. Just a shout out to LaFrenz, who was phenomenal to work with in making this improvement happen. The ministry team obviously was important, but we had very willing contractors. Okay, so that nested spiral. So here it is here. You can see that the interior lane spirals outward, and then there's a new nested lane that forms. So the arrow there pointing to that. I think it's inherent that there is simplified yielding here. You're never really yielding to 2 lanes where you're not really sure which direction a vehicle coming in that lane may be intending to head in. Smooth spirals, we see some of that on the exits, especially westbound. No exit merges, fewer exit conflicts, especially on that north side. Simplified circulatory lanes. So I do want to talk specifically about on the north side of the roundabout. Because of that tight radius, a large vehicle that's going westbound, and north is up, by the way, a vehicle heading westbound really struggled to stay within the lane lines. And when there was 2 lanes all the way around, there was lots of situations where vehicles were getting side by side and they couldn't take the exit that they wanted to, or the truck couldn't stay in the lane, and they encroached into another occupied lane, and there was a near miss. That was fairly frequent reports of that sort of thing. And that's why we eliminated that second lane on the north side. And finally, I do want to also talk about something we thought about, which is the crosswalk diverge spacing. So with the new design, the decision point where a vehicle either is going to stay in the roundabout or take an exit was pushed back. And what that did was it allowed vulnerable road users using these crosswalks to have more time to see whether a vehicle is coming in their direction or not. Of course, those vehicles should be yielding to those pedestrians and other road users. But it's always good to have a little bit more clarity about where vehicles in the roundabout may be going, so you can make a judgment on if you have a safe crossing opportunity or not. And there are more pedestrians here than you might think. Because Highway 99 is a freeway, there's limited opportunity for those walking or rolling to cross Highway 99. And so they do get funneled to our interchanges, and they kind of end up going through this roundabout to access that crossing. So don't think because of maybe the roadside landscape there that there aren't pedestrians. There absolutely are. Whenever you're doing a design like this, where you have so many constraints, the budget it had to fit within the same cost as what reinstating the pre-existing lines would be. We, of course, were restricted to paint and a few small signs. You're going to have to make adjustments. So let's talk about some of the ones we made here. In a real turbo roundabout, another thing you would typically see would be raised channelization, mountable curbs between different directions to really discourage people from changing lanes. In this case, that wasn't possible. We did use thermoplastic pavement markings to last longer, but nothing you could call raised. On the west side there's no forced spiral. That was just to allow a specific U-turn movement we wanted, and it was a location. I'll just put the highlighter on here again. This section here, almost nobody uses this lane in the existing condition or the pre-existing condition. It doesn't serve any major movements, but there is the occasional U-turn. So someone coming this way may want to do that. So that was sort of an adjustment from a normal turbo design. And we did modify this lane entry there. And so that is this specific location here. You can see on this example, again from turbo-roundabout.com, these turbo roundabouts usually have this really sharp entry. And I was able to ask at the ITE conference last year, or excuse me, the TAC conference last year about why designers think that's important. And it really is just to stop a car like this red car from going into the nested lane. It's just channelize people toward the outside to get that full turbo effect. And in our case, drivers coming off the northbound highway exit do need to be able to enter that inside lane to go across the freeway on 8th Avenue. So that is another area where this isn't a true turbo roundabout. So why did we call it a turbo roundabout, or why did we use that when we were talking to the stakeholders we needed to buy into this? Why did we use that terminology? And I think it comes down to we saw the elements that we did end up using as really important to solving the problems we had. And some of those turbo elements, which reduce conflicts, especially on the exits, they were really important to achieving our goals. And we wanted to bring that to the forefront and find a way to communicate to people what we were doing here. So it was the use of those concepts, even if a purist may say that we didn't really get the turbo roundabout fully here. All right, so when it comes to implementation, because this moves so quickly and because of, I guess we might call it the informal nature of the layout drawing, I did end up going on site and monitoring the layout, and I was just absolutely blown away. If you ever have an opportunity in your career to go watch an intersection layout or a roundabout layout, you really have to. How it works is you can see the gentleman on the right of the picture there, and then you can see this thin white chain across the roundabout pavement and onto the grass. And that individual basically takes that chain and using its own friction, drags it into place, using kind of flicking it or feathering it, maybe you'd say. And once it looks perfect, he would run across with marking paint and lay out how that chain was lying. And then later on, an actual line painting device would come and put in the true marking. They were phenomenal, and they were able to take those drawings and make them real in the world really, really quickly. So if you've ever wondered how they do that, it's absolutely an art, and I recommend taking that opportunity to see that. So obviously here we are. This is the first line going in. Later on, you can see they're working on different part of that. The chain is still visible there. Coming along here, they're about to do the separator line for the exit. And by the next morning, you can see the lines are in. It was absolutely phenomenal. So I worked a full day, my normal job, I guess you could call it. I went and watched some paint lines all night, or do the layout at the very least. And then I worked another full day, and then I came and saw it all painted. So that was a pretty exciting time to see something go from the page to real in the real world that you could see and you could drive. Very, very, very exciting. One more shot. Here you can see a lot of those smooth paths through the roundabout. You can see that lane to the left that's been closed off. Drivers were experiencing this for the first time, and I think they did great. I think people really understood what we were doing. Some locals will invariably show up and give you their feedback and ask their questions, and I had some really fun conversations with people wondering what we were up to, asking good questions like, why do you need a hard hat when you're painting lines? Things like that. So the outcomes. So the top, I didn't want to bury the headline here. Since the conversion was done last summer, we have had zero reported collisions in the Ministry of Transportation and Transit Collision Information System. ICBC claims data would likely report minor collisions. Those don't. Claims don't make it into CIS. But still a massive reduction in minor collisions and certainly no serious ones reported. We're very, very proud of that. Additionally, we've had extremely positive feedback from local drivers and commercial vehicle operators. This is the project that got me my second public commendation ever, a letter of someone saying, wow, you guys did something that is really great. I've only had 2 in my career, and this is the second one. So people were really, really happy. And no noticeable increase to congestion. That's important because when we talked about removing lanes and removing those merges, people thought we may really be impacting the ability of this roundabout to process vehicles. But we knew, given the placement of those merges, they were really limiting capacity through the intersection anyway. And it was much better to create an operation that was smooth, predictable, and was, in the end, it had no noticeable increase in congestion. And with that, I'll say thank you very much. I hope that was interesting. I hope that there's some questions I'm happy to answer if we have time. I have no idea what time it is. My computer's clocks are all gone. But yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you, Trevor, for the presentation. It's 12:26. We probably have some time for a couple questions. If anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the meeting chat. Trevor, are you able to see the meeting chat?
I'm just switching gears to do so.
Sounds good. I'll let you take a look at those.
Yes. Okay, yes, I do see those. So I'll start with the top with Ian's comment there. Yes, Ian, absolutely. Advanced signage is important. And I'll just go, what's the best way? I wish I had more time to go through everything. There absolutely is advanced signage. And I think I do this. So this gives you a sense here. You can see crossed out with red was the existing lane signage that told people which lanes to be in. Adherence was extremely poor, by the way. People would take other paths through the roundabout, which was part of the problem. And then the new signs are these ones here. And because there's fewer lane options, people are doing the right thing, and it's really working quite well. And another benefit was what we ended up implementing was the way a lot of people were already driving it. So the education period was shorter than what we might otherwise expect. Okay, switch back. Chris asks about RFBs. So yeah, this was a pre-existing roundabout, and it certainly didn't have anything like RFBs. And because of the limited scope of, sort of co-opting a paving program to change the configuration of this roundabout, adding a device like that, there was no budget to do so, unfortunately, and the timeline as well. The ministry has hundreds or thousands of intersections, and we do maintain a list where those improvements would be beneficial, and we try to prioritize them based on where we're seeing those critical volumes, and we rely on our own warrants for crosswalks as well as the TAC crossing control guide to decide where in the program it makes sense to put RFBs first. David asks next, what is the current policy from the ministry on turn signals approaching or exiting roundabouts? David, maybe could you, if you're willing, would you come off mute and just, I'm just curious, do you mean like how a vehicle or how a driver should indicate with their turn signal as they approach, circulate, and exit from a roundabout? Is that what you're?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Thanks, David. Yeah, so that would be a great question for the ministry's policy staff. We do have an entire branch of people within the ministry that are responsible for the rules of the road section of the Motor Vehicle Act. I'm not going to give my interpretation. What I do know is the current legislation doesn't mention roundabouts almost at all. It does say that when you're entering a circulatory intersection, you're supposed to keep right of the center. And so the ministry may maintain a website that speaks to this. I know ICPC has theirs as well, but it's not really my place as an operations engineer to say. So sorry, I can't go into that more. All right, the next question is, did the redesign address the eastbound fast path issue? So the answer is not really. That it was one thing that would certainly take a larger intervention. However, some of the elements did really help at least give more indication what should be done. And largely that's this line here is a lot clearer, and it goes further into the intersection of solid line. People are a little better about not crossing solid lines. So we have seen a minor improvement in that behavior, but that is a fundamental part of this roundabout that would be better corrected with a larger intervention. Fortunately, the conflict through this section is very low, and large vehicles do take that inside lane. I will also mention, and you can see it for yourself if you do go to Street View, there are signs on all three approaches that advise drivers not to drive beside a large vehicle in this roundabout. And those have been in place for at least 5 years, probably longer, just to give some extra indication to regular, vehicle, car drivers, not to get themselves into that position. Okay, just going. That was Anna's next question. Thanks, Anna. Yes, those signs. Actually, the signs are still there. We didn't bother removing them. There are still small sections of this roundabout where you could end up beside a truck, and so those signs were retained. Okay, where was I? Sorry about that. Jose asks, the westbound U-turn is provided, but not formally for eastbound. So, though, that's right. eastbound drivers, they can, if they're willing to make that lane change, they can end up back westbound. So they could do it. I've never seen anyone make that maneuver. People coming from White Rock have had an opportunity to do a U-turn at the roundabout on the other side of the interchange. So it's not common that someone goes through that roundabout and then only on the structure over the freeway realize, oh, I need to do a U-turn. So we kind of get away with it there. So that's, hopefully that answers your question. You know, it is something that they could do if they were really in a pinch and they really decided that this was the spot they wanted to make that reverse turn. Otherwise, they've had good opportunities in other locations. Last question, I think maybe, unless I've missed any, I hope not. Stakeholder engagement. So that is the question. Persistence, I guess, is the answer. We quickly decided as that core group that this was something we wanted to pursue with vigor. And when we presented the United Front of this is what the district and traffic engineering all want to pursue, and we created the mock-up that's currently shared on the screen, and we could sort of talk decision makers through what changes we were talking about and what they did for us, we found that people got pretty excited. So, you know, there's always that resistance, like, well, let's just do the easy thing, and the pavement marking contractor will just go in and make it look as it always has. But when you have a collision every 3 weeks, it's pretty easy to make a captivating storyline that gets people listening and gets people engaged with the improvements that you're proposing. And not sleeping, I guess, helps. If you just don't sleep, you can make 2 weeks longer. Oh, snuck another one in there. Okay, we got one more question. For the 2-lane eastbound approach, 1 lane yields and the other is free flow. Yes, that has been observed to be working well. Yes. Again, we get away with it a little bit due to the reduced volumes. A true turbo would spiral that lane. I'll just point at it so I don't have to try to refer to cardinals. But a true turbo would spiral that out so that the yield is, it's clear that everyone needs to yield to this movement. Because so few drivers are doing that, it was okay as shown, and drivers were already entering the roundabout when others were making that maneuver anyway. So this just puts down some nice thick reflective lines that clarify the intention there. And yes, drivers, the rare one that does come that way, it all works pretty well. Lost my chat here.
I think that was the last one, Trevor.
Okay, great.
Great. Well, I want to thank you on behalf of the ITE Greater Vancouver section for the presentation. I think a lot of us found it very insightful, as well as the tidbits of staying up all night. Just want to thank everyone else for joining us for this virtual presentation, and we look forward to seeing you all at future events.
Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate your attention and your time and your good questions.
Thank you very much. Oh, and I just wanted to add that I'm Kian from City of Surrey, and we don't have anything reported for collisions. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great to hear that.